Hi, ninth graders. Are you a little stressed about all the poems that are going to come in your exams? Well, don't worry. Listen to this video and you will quickly and easily revise all your poems from Beehive. So, get to it. Hello, my wonderful ninth graders. Hope you're keeping warm and safe, and welcome to your Summary Under 10-minute session with me. Today we are going over a poem, which is The Road Not Taken. So we'll first read the poem together and then get to the analysis. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. All right, now let's get to the analysis of the poem. So about the poet, Robert Frost is an American poet who writes simply but insightfully about common, ordinary experiences. Now, this is his immensely popular poem, The Road Not Taken. So, in the beginning, the poet comes upon a diversion where two roads diverged in different directions. So, the poet felt sorry that he could not travel both the roads. He had to make a decision and choose one single path. At the junction, the poet stood for a long time and tried to look at the roads as far as he could. He wanted to see the roads in full and wanted to know about both the paths. But he could not see anything beyond the diversion as the roads were curved and covered with trees. In the stanza, the yellow wood refers to the forest with leaves which were shed on the road and had turned yellow. This indicates that it was the autumn season. Through this stanza, the poet wants to convey that in everyone's life, there comes a time when we have to make choices. We may not be able to see the full outcomes of making the choice, but we have to choose only one. At that time, we see the pros and cons of the situation and take the time to decide which path to take. Similarly, the poet is also taking time before making any decision. After pondering on it for a long time, the poet decided to take the other road. He felt that both the roads were equally good. He started walking on the road which had grass on it and felt that it was a better road for him. The grassy road means that the road was not used and meant that only a few people have walked on it. After walking some distance on the road, the poet felt that both the paths were almost the same. There was hardly any difference between them. Through this, the poet conveys that in our life, whatever decision we take or whatever choices we make, each choice has some advantages and some disadvantages. However, we must pick a path and follow through. Now, the poet says that both the paths seemed to be similar that morning. Leaves were shed on both the roads and they were still green. It means that no one had walked on the roads that day. He decided to take one path that day and kept the other path for another day. He knows that he cannot go back and take the other path once he moves ahead with one. Similarly, in our life, when we make one decision, we cannot go back. We have to move ahead with the same choices and face the consequences which come our way. The poet says that on one day in the future, he will take a deep breath and say that once upon a time, he had reached a point in life where he had two roads in front of him, and on that day he had to make a difficult choice. and he chose to travel on the road that was traveled by less people, so the road less traveled by. And it means that he chose something that is not a popular choice. And that decision changed his life entirely. Through the poem, the poet sends a powerful message that people should decide wisely in their life, because the decision they will take will have an impact on the rest of their life. And the poet also tells us that the popular choice is not always the right choice. Sometimes traveling by the road less traveled by makes all the difference. All right, that brings us to the end of the analysis of the poem. Great life lessons in there for us. All right, today we are going over the poem Wind by Subramanya Bharati, translated from Tamil by A.K. Ramanujan. So as always, we'll first read the poem together and then analyze it. Wind, come softly. Don't break the shutters of the windows. Don't scatter the papers. Don't throw down the books on the shelf. There, look at what you did. You threw them all down. You tore the pages off the books. You brought rain again. You're very clever at poking fun at weaklings. Frail, crumbling houses, crumbling doors, crumbling rafters, crumbling wood, crumbling bodies, crumbling lives, crumbling hearts. The wind god winnows and crushes them all. He won't do what you tell him. So come, let's build strong homes. Let's joint the doors firmly. Practice to firm the body. Make the heart steadfast. Do this, and the wind will be friends with us. The wind blows out weak fires. He makes strong fires roar and flourish. His friendship is good. We praise him every day. All right, now let's get to the analysis. But before that, you should know that this poem is written by the great Tamil poet Subramanya Bharati. He is well known for his patriotism in the pre-independence era. The poem is also translated from Tamil into English by A.K. Ramanujan. So in this poem, the wind has been personified. The poet is talking to the wind and he tells it to come softly. He then describes the destructive nature of the wind. He says that the wind blows so strongly that it breaks the shutters of the window and scatters the papers. It is so powerful that the books which were kept on the shelf have fallen. Then he says to the wind, look at all the destruction that is caused by you. You have thrown everyone down and disorganized everything. Owing to your force, the pages of the books have been torn down. You have brought the rain. Further, the poet says that the wind is very clever in making fun of those people who are weak. Now, by this, the poet means that when a strong wind blows, all the things which are fragile, weak, and feeble break easily. Initially, when the poet has introduced the wind, then he has compared its power with a small child. That's why he has asked the wind to come softly. But later, the wind has become destructive, like a youth full of energy, violence, and destruction. The poet says that the wind is so mighty that it is breaking everything that comes in its way. He says that the weak houses are falling, the doors are breaking down, the beam which was supporting the roof of the building is falling, and all the things made out of wood material are falling. Further, he says that people are unable to stand properly due to the heavy wind, and they are also falling. All the living things which are weak are either breaking down or falling. The people are scared of the wind and their hearts are beating at a faster rate. Then the poet is addressing the wind as God. He has compared the people with wheat and says that when we winnow the wheat to separate the grain of the wheat from the chaff, similarly the wind god separates the strong people from the weak people. Due to heavy and strong wind, all the weak things fall and get destroyed. Then the poet goes on to say that the wind will not listen to us and do what we say. So instead of instructing the wind, we should prepare ourselves. We should build strong homes and close the door tightly so that the wind does not enter the home. We should make our body strong and our heart firm so that we can face these difficulties and overcome all the challenges. He says that by doing all of these things, the wind will become friends with us. Here the poet means that problems would come in our life. We should make ourselves strong enough to overcome those problems. Every hurdle in our life makes us stronger and helps us explore our inner strength. The poet elaborates that the wind blows all the things which are weak. Only those things which are strong remain and flourish to become even stronger. The friendship of the wind is good, and we should praise his friendship every day like a god. Here, the poet conveys a strong message that we should not cry or consider ourselves weak when problems arise in our life. Instead, we should see them as an opportunity to explore our ability and strength to face these problems with courage. These problems make us mentally and physically strong, and through them we learn to overcome the hardship of life. Hello there, 9th graders. Welcome to your Summary Under 10-minute session with me. Today we are going over the poem Rain on the Roof. So as always, let's first read the poem together and then get to the analysis of the poem. When the humid shadows hover over all the starry spheres, and the melancholy darkness gently weeps in rainy tears, what a bliss to press the pillow of a cottage chamber bed and lie listening to the patter of the soft rain overhead. Every tinkle on the shingles has an echo in the heart, and 1,000 dreamy fancies into busy being start, and 1,000 recollections weave their air threads into woof as I listen to the patter of the rain upon the roof. Now in memory comes my mother, as she used in years agone, to regard the darling dreamers, ere she left them till the dawn. Oh, I feel her fond look on me, as I list to this refrain, which is played upon the shingles by the patter of the rain. All right, now let's get to the analysis of the poem. In the first stanza, the poet is describing the dark, rainy night. He says that the sky is full of dark clouds and the stars have become invisible. The clouds have moisture and they are full of water. They are floating around the sky and are about to bring rain. He further says that the darkness of the sky is making him sad, melancholy. So the rain describes his emotions as it feels like tears falling softly from the human eyes. The poet says that the thing that brings happiness to him is lying down on the bed with the pillow. His mood changes and he feels joyful after listening to the sound of the raindrops while lying on the bed and pressing the pillow. The poet says that every drop of the water on the roof has an echo in his heart. It brings thousands of dreamy fancies and imaginations into the poet's mind. He explains that when he listens to the sound of the raindrops falling on the roof, various memories of the past are recollected into his mind as dreams. Here it is. These memories seem like weaving threads and making a patchwork. Now, in the last stanza, the poet describes his mother. He remembers his mother who is no longer alive in his memories. He says that his mother used to love him a lot and she called him darling. She allowed him to sleep till sunrise. His mother looked at him every night as she knew that she would not see him till the next morning. The sound of the raindrops reconnects his memories with the present. Every time when rain falls on the roof, it brings back old memories and reminds him of his mother. The repetitive rhythm of the raindrop evokes all of his memories. All right, so that is the meaning analysis of the poem, and it's something that you and I can relate to as well, especially if you're fond of rain and you like sitting and thinking when it's raining outside, then this poem is something that you will be able to relate to. Hello. How are you 9th graders doing? And welcome to your Summary Under 10-minute session with me. Today we are going over the poem The Lake Isle of Innisfree. So let's read the poem together first. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnights all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evenings full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core. William Butler Yeats. All right, now let's get to the analysis of the poem. To start off with, in the poem, I refers to the poet. He says that he wants to go to Innisfree. He will build a small room with the help of clay. He will make the walls of the room with small sticks. He will grow the 9 rows of the bean near his home. He will also have a honey bee from which he can collect fresh honey. He says that his room will be full of the buzzing sound of bees, and he will live alone in peace and silence there. Now, in the second stanza, the poet says that he feels peace on Innisfree Island. He felt peace enveloping him gradually. Further, he says that in the morning, when the clouds cannot be seen clearly, then it appears as if the morning has worn a cover. This scene will make him feel more serene. He says that he enjoys the morning song of the insect cricket. At midnight, the twinkling in the sky gives him immense pleasure. In the afternoon, the purple glow of the sunlight makes him feel happy, and in the evening, he enjoys the scene of the linnet birds flying in the sky with their full wings. In the last stanza, the poet is determined to go to Innisfree. He says that he will now stand up and go to Innisfree because day or night, all the time in his mind, he hears the sound of the water hitting the shore. Whenever he stands in the city, on the roadway, or on the grey-colored pavement, he hears the sound deep inside his heart, in his heart's core. All right, that brings us to the end of the analysis. Simple enough to understand. William Butler Yeats, a very, very famous poet. You can read more poetry by him, easily available online. And there's a lot more in your syllabus and in 10th grade too. Hello, my 9th grade champions, and welcome to your summary under 10-minute session with me. Today, we'll be going over a poem, which is A Legend of the Northland by Phoebe Cary. So without further ado, let's get to it. Now, if any of you haven't read the poem yet or would like to give it another read before we go into the summary, pause here and then come back. Let's get to the summary now. In the first stanza, the poet has described Northland. She says that far away in the region of North Pole, there is a place named Northland. In the Northland, the days are smaller and nights are longer during the winter season. The people of Northland could not sleep as the nights were cold and long, since Northland is a very cold place. The poet says that whenever the snow falls in the region, the people of Northland tie their reindeers to the sledges. Reindeer is the species of deer found in the polar region. She further says that the children look like the babies of bears when they wear funny, furry clothes during the winter season. The people of the Northland region tell an interesting story to their children. The poet says that she does not believe that the story is true. However, the readers might learn a lesson after listening to this story. Now, the story starts and it goes like this. Once there was a saint by the name of Saint Peter. He used to live in the world and walked around it, giving religious speeches to people just like other saints do. Then an incident happened. While traveling around the world, Saint Peter came to the door of an old cottage. In the cottage, he saw a small woman who was making cakes. Now, she was baking them on the fireplace. Since Saint Peter had fasted for the day, he was feeling weak and hungry. He was almost losing consciousness due to hunger. The fast was over for the day and he was looking for some food to eat. So he asked the woman to give him a piece of the cake from the store of the cakes that she had baked. The woman was selfish. She thought that all the cakes she had baked were big ones. So she made a tiny cake. But when she baked it, she found it to be large. So she decided not to give that one and bake another cake. This time she took small dough which was smaller than the previous one and then started making it. When she baked it and looked at it, she found that it was the same size as the previous one. So again, she was not ready to give this piece of the cake to Saint Peter. She again started making a new one. This time, she took a very small piece of dough. She rolled it flat and baked it as thin as a wafer. But she could not give that thin piece of cake to Peter owing to her greed. The woman said that when she eats her cakes, she feels that they are small. But now, when she has to give a single cake, she considers them to be large ones. Hence, she decided not to give the cake at all and put it on the shelf. After watching all of this, Saint Peter became angry. He was very hungry and weak. The selfish woman was not ready to give even a single piece of the cake to the saint. This behavior of the woman had provoked the saint, and Saint Peter said to the woman that you are too selfish. You are not meant to live the human life. You do not deserve food, house, and fire to keep you warm. You have become so selfish that you are not ready to share these resources with anyone, not even with needy people. Saint Peter cursed the woman and said she would become a bird, and just like the birds build their homes by boring into the wood, she would also build her home in a similar way. She will get a little food to eat. She has to work hard throughout the day, and only then would she find some food to eat and dry wood to live. As Saint Peter cursed the woman, she did not get a chance to speak anything in her favor. She went through the chimney and flew out from it in the form of a bird. The woman turned into a woodpecker bird due to the curse of Saint Peter. The woman was wearing a red color cap when she was transformed into a bird. Interestingly, the bird also had a bright red color cap on its head. Everything other than the cap was burned in the fire. Her clothes were burned and became black like coal in the fire. All the people who live in that region and even schoolboys have seen this type of bird in the woods. She lived in the tree for the whole day and dug the wood for her food. Older people narrate this story to their young children and teach them not to be greedy in their life. That brings us to the end of the summary and analysis of the poem. Hello there, my wonderful 9th graders, and welcome to your summary under 10 minutes session with me. Now today we have a poem that we're going to go over. So like the previous few sessions for poems, we're going to read the poem first and then we're going to understand what the poem is trying to say. So for all those of you who haven't read it, no worries, we're going to do it together. The poem is No Men Are Foreign, and let's get right to it. Remember, no men are strange, no countries foreign. Beneath all uniforms, a single body breathes. Like ours, the land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. They too, aware of sun and air and water, are fed by peaceful harvests, by war's long winter starved. Their hands are ours, and in their lines we read a labor not different from our own. Remember, they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep, and strength that can be won by love. In every land is common life that all can recognize and understand. Let us remember, whenever we are told to hate our brothers, it is ourselves that we shall dispossess, betray, condemn. Remember, we who take arms against each other, it is the human earth that we defile. Our hells of fire and dust outrage the innocence of air that is everywhere our own. Remember, no men are foreign and no countries strange. So let's get into the explanation. The poet addresses the readers and reminds them that no men are strangers and no country is foreign. Now we can go back, that happens in the beginning. So he says no one is different from each other. He wishes to remove the borders of the countries so that everyone will be free to move around. Now under the uniform, we all have the same body, which breathes in the same way. And here we can assume that by uniforms, the poet can mean military uniforms that a lot of people wear when their countries are at war with each other. So military men wear these uniforms when they're at war. But beneath these uniforms, we are all alike. Okay? So the land on which the men of other countries walk is similar to ours. The earth is one. And eventually, we will all be buried after death on the same earth. Now, in the second stanza, the poet says that people of other countries, okay, that is also here, so we'll get back. The people of other countries are also know about the sun, they know about air, they know about water. And God does not differentiate between people and treats everyone equally. When food is harvested, everyone eats food and enjoys their lives. But they also suffer during the war and the long winters, right? So everyone sees good and bad days in their life regardless of where they are on planet Earth. All of us have the same hands. We all work hard to earn our livelihood. Then the poet says that people of other countries have eyes similar to us, and just like us, they also wake up, they also go to sleep. They have the strength that can be won by love. Everywhere on the land, life is universally the same. We have similarity in our body parts and its functions, and the body functions in a similar way for all of us, regardless of how different we might look on the outside. So if we can recognize it, then we will understand that all human beings share equal traits. Now, in the fourth stanza, the poet says that whenever we are told to hate another person who belongs to a different country and think of them as our enemy, then we are depriving, cheating, and condemning only ourselves. He further says that we should not pick up weapons to fight against each other. We should live in harmony. So in the last stanza, the poet laments that human beings are spoiling the earth because of their hate for each other. They are destroying their innocence by the fire of war. So the smoke which comes out through the weapons fills the air around us with dust. He further adds that the air which is present everywhere is ours. It's not just the air right around us, everywhere. So we should not make it dirty by our feelings of hatred. We should remember that no men are foreign and no countries are strange. We all are equal and all the same and should be treated with respect. Hello 9th grade champions, and welcome to your summary under 10 minutes session with me. Today we will be going over a poem which is on killing a tree. So before we understand what the poem is trying to say, let's go over the poem together. It takes much time to kill a tree. Not a simple jab of the knife will do it. It has grown, slowly consuming the earth, rising out of it, feeding upon its crust, absorbing, years of sunlight, air, water, and out of its leprous hide, sprouting leaves. So hack and chop, but this alone won't do it. Not so much pain will do it. The bleeding bark will heal, and from close to the ground will rise curled green twigs, miniature boughs, which, if unchecked, will expand again to former size. No, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. It is to be roped, tied, and pulled out, snapped out, or pulled out entirely, out from the earth cave, and the strength of the tree exposed, the source white and wet, the most sensitive hidden for years inside the earth. Then the matter of scorching and choking in sun and air, browning, hardening, twisting, withering, and then it is done. So let's go into the analysis of the poem. Now, On Killing a Tree is a poem by Jeev Patel. In the first stanza, the poet says that it takes quite some time to kill a tree. It cannot be done by a simple cut of a knife, since the tree has grown gradually and its roots have gone deep inside the soil. The tree got its nutrients from the earth and grew in the upward direction by absorbing years and years of sunlight, air, and water. The leaves and branches of the tree sprouted from its bark and looked like a leprous disease. Hence, the poet says that cutting, chopping, and killing of a tree that has taken so many years to grow cannot be done by an axe. This will give pain to the tree, but it won't be sufficient to destroy the tree entirely. The sap flows out from the tree and then it is cut or chopped. It is similar to human bleeding on getting wounded. The bark will heal itself with time. New branches will grow again and expand to their former size. Nature, as you can see, has the ability to recover. Now, in the third stanza, the poet suggests how a tree can be killed. The tree was strongly held to the earth by its roots. So to kill a tree, roots have to be uprooted from the ground. To do so, the tree has to be tied with a rope and to be pulled out completely from the earth cave. So here, earth cave means the space which is created in the earth by uprooting the tree. The power of the tree lies in its roots, and it's the main component of a tree. So when the life source of the tree, that is the roots, are exposed, the tree will die. The poet has described the roots as white and wet because the white liquid flows out from the tree when the roots are pulled out. These roots are the most sensitive and hidden part of the tree, which were inside the earth for so many years. In the last stanza, the poet has explained the condition of the tree after its roots have been uprooted. He says that the tree will gradually dry up due to the hot heat of the sun and wind. It will not be able to breathe, and transportation of nutrients will stop as its roots will be pulled out. The trunk of the tree will become brown and it will harden. With time, the tree will die and bend out of shape. Finally, the tree will die. So, the poet tries to bring out the cruelty of killing a tree in this poem, which is something you wouldn't otherwise think about. Hello, my 9th grade champions, and it's time for your summary under 10-minute session with me. Today we are going over the poem, A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal. And so before we get into the explanation, let's read the poem together. A slumber did my spirit seal. I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly years. No motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees. Rolled round in earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. So, A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal is a poem written by the famous English poet William Wordsworth. It's one of the 5 Lucy poems Wordsworth has written, but it is the only one in the series of Lucy poems that does not mention the name Lucy. Many scholars and literary historians have offered some theories as to who Lucy was, what was her true identity, but all of this remains a mystery. So we can just assume that Lucy was a fictional character that Wordsworth used for his poems. Now, this poem was published in Lyrical Ballads. This poem specifically is about the death of a loved one and focuses primarily on the death of a young woman. So the poem consists of 2 4-line stanzas. In the first stanza, the speaker is in a deep slumber or sleep, innocent and unaware about the harsh realities of life and death, and has no human fears and no realization about what is it to lose someone that you truly love. He says that she, which we can assume is Lucy, seemed like someone who has not been affected by earthly things and years. The author never imagined that death could ever affect his beloved Lucy. But now she lies motionless and lifeless. She could no longer hear. She's buried deep under the earth's soil, lying with rocks, stones, and trees. Perhaps his way of thinking provides a relief to the poet. Even after her death, he sees her as being present in nature, in rocks and trees and so on, rather than seeing her as dead and gone from his life and the earth.